Hey guys, and welcome to What Shall We Do Next. And today could be the scariest video I've ever done. I don't think you really realize how dangerous this video will be. I don't think you realize. I think you do. You think you're ready for this, but I think you're not. Because in this video, you might actually die. So I don't know if you guys have even heard about this, but there's an urban legend called Cowhead. And I've told this urban legend twice on my channel, one 5 years ago, and then I redid it 2 years ago. And this urban legend in particular, if you don't know what that is, I suggest you watch that before you watch this. Because that urban legend is a story about a story. Now, the story that it's about is a story that nobody alive has ever heard. Only people who've heard it have died, which is insane. People who have heard the story never lived to tell what happens in the story. All we know is that it was about a man who had a cow's head. And apparently this story, which I believe it's originated in Japan. I'm not too sure, it's been a while. But I believe that this story originated in Japan. There was only a few copies of this story ever written. And those who read it died from fright. It was too awful to read. The story itself was described as too terrible to read. I don't know how I could even imagine a story that is so scary that you will actually die from fright. But one thing I do know is that most of the copies of this story were actually destroyed. And those that survived were torn into segments, like pages torn out of it. And it was distributed across all of Japan, like different parts of the country. So there is really no full copy of this story out there anymore. Though there has been some pages that have been collected and people have said what the story's about. But nobody has the story in its entirety. Except me. Now, I'm not joking around. I don't know if it's the actual story or it's something a fan made up, but I got a comment on both of my Gozu / Cowhead videos that I've made in the past, the 5 years ago one and the 2 years ago one. I got a comment from the same guy named Dylan Best, and he commented with the title saying Gozu, Cowhead, and then a huge comment, which I can only imagine is the story, because it's completely different to the ones that I've told. Now, maybe there's just another version of the Cowhead story out there, but I've read this story and it's not the same as I read. I didn't thoroughly read through his comment, but I did ask him. I commented back to him and I said, is this the Cowhead story? And he didn't respond. So I don't know. It's possible that when I read this story, I might die, you might die. Are you ready for this, kids? Because I'm not. But I must warn you, just in case, there is a possibility that you could die while watching this video. So proceed at your own risk. But enough of the jibber jabber. Let's jump right over to the story. Gozu, Cowhead. As he gathered and tallied all he had stored, dried, pickled, and preserved, he thought. Ever since his wife had died, he had so much time to think and nobody to talk to. No one who could understand or comprehend his lonely world. He had experienced a famine like this so long ago. It was hard to remember clearly, but he could never forget how bad things had gotten. When people started acting on their most desperate instincts, it was already too late for the many. This famine had gone on for so long, but they would have enough to make it until it started raining. He was sure of it. That was little relief. How long would his neighbors starve, suffer, and waste away before they resorted to eating each other? What then? If he outlived them? If he didn't, who would take care of his child? They needed so much. It hadn't seemed as hard while his wife was still with them. But now that she was gone, it has taken most of their child's life for him to be in a place where they could even understand each other. No one else ever would. Short walk town. Long walk pilgrimage. He signaled into their hand. At the door, he loaded them both with everything he might need, and everything he could spare for the town. He led the two of them, and was welcomed with a silent awe. He passed out foods as they were basic necessities to some, but delicacies to those who lived harder lives than he and his wife had. He beckoned to the hesitant. Please take what you need. I am here for those inedible coins. We will go and try to get some supplies and staples to get us on the narrow path to get us through this. No amount of money was going to be enough to change the way the wind was blowing, but they would rather have food than stockpiled coins these days. The man and his child walked away much lighter, with a vigor that can only be detained by pairing a good meal and a resolute goal. Everyone in town would feel the elation that blew in their wake. That food was the first many had seen in days. Some of them as much disturbed, as relieved by how much they knew they needed it. The food was greatly enjoyed. It was precious. It was rationed. It was the community's. The atmosphere of the town had changed. They were equal. It was fair down to the last, but there was no more. They were in this together, and they were all so hungry. With a new hope they had never expected, they looked down the road the two had walked. They were one, and they waited patiently, sustained by the memory of being sated. How well they had slept with food in their bellies. Finally, two figures appeared opposite the rising sun, shuffling, pushing on, naked, one with blood shushing down its chest with every breath, both with the heads of cows from the neck up. The bleeding one wailed, calling out, no one knew for what. The two were given distance at first, but as they steadily approached, more gathered, the town closed in. They marched on raw, bare feet, caked with dry, dusty earth. They were so human, yet so inhuman. One cow bleeding and screaming, the other leading it deeper into town, both roped together around their thick, furred necks. The bleeding cow bleated and coughed, blood pouring over its body. Both hands stained with blood. It brandished a knife in one hand and a silver of raw flesh in the other. As it moved, as it spun, blood flecked the thirsty earth, leaving the smell of iron and meat in the dry air. The crowd gathered. Families came together. They hadn't eaten in so long, but they hadn't had meat in so much longer. The quiet cow led the other to the butcher's stall. It stood there in silence, as if its task complete. Only now did the people notice its low whining, its uneven, heavy breathing. The bleeding cow stumbled, reaching out to the counter. When it found it, it placed the handle of the knife against the edge and walked, driving the blade into its chest resolutely. With a crunch and a wheeze, it fell to the ground, convulsing, more screaming. The tools were right there, and the nearest and most merciful buried the knife deeper and more critically into it. When its thrashing around had stopped, they turned to the confused cow, still tethered to the fresh kill. It did little to flee, as the knives were removed from the first slaughter and plunged into it. The two beasts were quartered, the meat split up fairly as they went about preparing some and preserving the rest. They began butchering the cows' heads, removing the eyes and tongues. It was not until they split the skull to harvest the brains that they realized a few things. These were just cows' heads, crudely stapled onto the bodies of that old hermit and the quiet child. They were capable of far more than they ever realized, and that there are 4 more eyes and another tongue to eat. And that is the end of that. So clearly, I'm still alive. I didn't die of a heart attack. I didn't fright to death. I didn't even think it was scary. I thought it was extremely sad. And it does show that people, in a desperate attempt to survive, will do anything, will eat anything, including other people. Now, if you didn't die, that's good. If you did, then I'm sorry, rest in peace. Now, I don't think this is the real cowhead story, but I do think it's very similar. I feel like somebody wrote what they thought the story was going to be with the little information that they had from the urban legend. Because what we do know is that the story did involve a person with a cow's head that wandered into a village of starving people, and they attacked. So this story seemed a lot like what it tells in the urban legend, but I think maybe Dylan wrote this himself, or somebody else wrote it and Dylan's sharing it. But I don't think it's the real one because I didn't die, or at least not yet. Maybe it doesn't happen right away. Maybe it happens in like 7 days, like the ring tape, like Samara Morgan climbing up the TV. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story, and I hope you didn't die. And if you did die, make sure you drop a dislike on the video. If you didn't die, hit the like button. I would appreciate that. But anyway, guys, I will see you in the next video. Remember to chase your dreams and watch out for the cowhead. Peace out, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoy my videos and you would like to support me and my channel more and also be featured in my videos, go check out my Patreon. Link is in the description. I would really appreciate any help you guys have to offer. As you can see, we have different tiers, different rewards, so go over there, check it out, and I would really appreciate that. Every little helps. Thank you so much. And also, guys, don't forget to subscribe with the notification bell on, and also follow me on all my social media. I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even Snapchat. So go follow me on all of those, and remember the most important thing: I love you guys, and chase your dreams.